Sydney has some great opportunity when it comes to four-wheel drive destinations, and one of my favourite spots is also where the team from Mannell Motors are taking a bunch of their customers on one of their popular customer drive days. We're up in the Blue Mountains, less than 2 hours west of the heart of the city at the Zigzag Railway, one of the mountain's best tourist attractions. But we're not here for the trains, we're here to get some great advice on how to put our four-wheel drives to use by some of Sydney's experts in all forms of four-wheel driving. And the guys from Mannell Motors really know their stuff when it comes to a four-wheel drive, which is why these drive days are so popular with their customers. It's a great opportunity for the experienced and the not so experienced to learn how to drive their cars in all kinds of conditions and in all types of off-road situations. Today we're going to tackle some really easy tracks around the Clarence and the Glowworm Tunnel area, and then move on to some steep climbs, some rock ledges and rough moguls. But the whole time, Jimmy and Nick will be keeping an eye on the group and guiding them through the rough stuff. And this is what it's all about, passing the experience on to others so that they can get the most out of their four-wheel driving. But now, let's join Rod and Matt in Rod's 100 Series Land Cruiser. Rod's letting Matt have a drive, and this is his first off-road driving experience.
Yeah, see, coming up there with the lockers on gives you the ability to be in a controlled situation. You've got more traction. You don't have to worry about getting to where it's opposites and having to gun it to climb, go across them. You can just idle through it with the lockers on, know that you're in control, and when it comes to making that hard right turn at the top, you can just idle up to it, and then just as the back wheel's about to climb up, you just give it a little bit, the back wheel pops up, you're through the hazard, and you continue on. So yeah, nice and simple.
So Rod's giving some great advice here and making Matt feel comfortable with the car, which is really important. In this section, the front and rear lockers certainly make the going easy for Matt's first taste of some hard stuff.
Without lockers, you're a two-wheel drive. Yeah. Even though you're in a four-wheel drive vehicle, you're just a two-wheel drive. Yeah, you can see the road. As long as you can see the track in front of you and you can get an idea of what the obstacle is that you're going to drive, you're okay.
When you're on a trip like this with a large group of people, it's important to know what's going on. So let's go over and talk to Nick and see what he's got to say about it.
Just have a quick chat about trip etiquette and what makes the trip work. The best thing you can do is make sure that no one gets lost by following a proper trip procedure. Our one this morning at our briefing was to ensure that no one made a turn or took an intersection or a turn off without allowing the person behind to see where you're going. It's one of those things, you're only as fast as the slowest person on your trip. So the other thing we're using today to help with our trip is UHF radios. That way we can communicate between everyone and help guide people up and down hills and tell people when to wait and when to come up a hill. How you going there, Jimmy? You going all right?
No, all right.
We've moved away from the main track and are now climbing some small hills where the washerways are proving to be a lot more difficult than they look. And as you know on 4-Wheel Drive TV, we always promote treading lightly. So it's important when you come across these softer sections of road that you take care of them and don't tear them up. One of the reasons it's good to have someone guiding you is so that you can avoid the big holes and obviously the wheel spinning. And if you're in a modern 4-wheel drive without lockers, the chances are that you'll have traction control, which allows the car to move up the hill without excessive wheel spin and road damage. And of course, if you have lockers, make sure you engage them early to avoid creating new ruts in the road. We're now heading up yet another hill to an area where there's a bit of a rock climb. Getting up to the rock climb is relatively straightforward, but the rock itself is not quite the same. Because this rock is very smooth and has a few steps in it, it's not one that everyone can get up, but a few of the group weren't giving up easily. But eventually, sometimes you just need to admit defeat and take the easier route. This is one of those climbs where the UHF radios really work well, and we'll just listen in now as Nick guides Nathan up.
Straight up there. Keep going, get that, more right, more right, more right. Yep, that, stay right, stay right. Stay right, stay right, stay right, swing left, full lock left. And then you've got two trees in front of you, you'll see, you've got to go between the two trees, straight ahead in front of you now.
But let's get back to the rock climb and see who can get up by themselves. We often get asked exactly where some of these tracks are and how to get to them. Well, these ones are pretty easy to find, and the best way is to get yourself a topo map. Today's trip can be found entirely on the Lithgow topo in the 1 to 25,000 series. You can get these maps from most good four-wheel drive shops. Now, in terms of directions, you take the Old Bells line of road turn-off right at the Zigzag Railway and follow this for a few kilometres until you come to the T-junction of the Glowworm Tunnel Road. Most of the tracks you've seen today follow the power lines, which are directly opposite that T-junction. Amongst the Mannell Motors customers on the trip today are a couple who just love four-wheel drive touring. Grant and Jill have done plenty of trips over the years and have visited this section of the Blue Mountains, known as the Lost City, in the past. We joined Grant and Jill in the car, where they gave us a bit of an insight into the car and the day.
Well, it's a Disco 2. It's one of the first Disco 2s. I guess we were attracted to it because I learnt to drive on an old Series 1. But now the kids are off our hands and we're empty nesters. So now we're having a bit of fun by ourselves again. The plan is that we'll buy a tent and fit it out with some drawers so that we're totally self-sufficient, don't need to have a trailer. And the sort of stuff that we really enjoy is what we call touring.
I leave the driving to Grant mostly, but I enjoy the camping and the bush part of it. We make quite a good team that way. We came out to the Lost City when this vehicle was very new. That was 10 years ago now. We haven't been climbing rocks and getting so much air as we have today. This is more adventurous than we usually do.
It's interesting that today we've done stuff that we wouldn't normally do, and I guess you get a certain confidence from being part of a group, and also I think the guidance that Nick Mannell's given us has helped a long way. And years ago I used to ride trials, and that was all about choosing the right line. And what I've learnt from this is that this is exactly the same, that once you get the line right, everything else tends to fall into place.
If we were on the ski slopes, these things would be known as moguls, but when we're in the bush, they're called something else.
Some people would have heard them before, called a Wombat Hole. So you're going to have two opposing wheels off the ground at the same time, which in a four-wheel drive without lockers or traction control is not going to move forward at all.
So having lockers, or lock diffs, makes a big difference when you're in these types of situations and uneven terrain. These Wombat Holes, though, are a great training ground for picking lines and working your way through a series of obstacles. Nick and Jimmy from Mannell Motors were on hand the whole time too, to help guide the group through, and provided some great insight and assistance in wheel placement and approach. Every car made it through the Wombat Holes and out the other side. One thing worth noting if you are planning to do any kind of four-wheel driving that involves the type of terrain we've seen today, make sure your vehicle is well equipped to handle the job. Ensure you have enough ground clearance and that you have a decent sump guard and other underbody protection. And if you need any help or you're not sure about setting up your four-wheel drive, get in contact with a reputable four-wheel drive outlet to get the right advice. Our trip to the Lost City, Clarence and the Powerline tracks is coming to an end, and it really was a great day organised by Jimmy Porter and Nick Mannell from Mannell Motors. They passed on a lot of information to their customers on how to tackle all sorts of different off-road scenarios. These drive days are a great opportunity to learn more about your car, and there were smiles all round at the end of the day. So thanks guys, and we'll see you on the next trip.